ate noodles with no packet. Cereal with the canned
Israel.
Surface, it seems like this war is one between the United States and Iran, but in reality, what this war really is about is a war between the United States and Israel, where the American empire has become corrupt, incompetent, and arrogant, and so now Israel sees the opportunity to...
Israel took the opportunity because Donald Trump is a wall kisser, okay? He will do anything in his power to listen to these people. He was coerced into listening to Israel, bros. All right? That's the truth of it. The president is weak.
Replace the American empire in the system. And it's something that eventually every aspect of the system will agree to do. So the main outcome of this war, when it ends, is that Israel will replace America in the Middle East. America spends a lot of money in its military. America accounts for 41% of all global military spending. Who's next? China. China spends 8.2%. Russia.
America is at 41% and China is at 8.2%. Whoa. A distant second, just to show you the stupidity that America dumps into the industrial war complex.
Which is America's main military enemy, only spends 4.1%, meaning that Russia spends 1/10 the amount of money that America spends. And you think that, okay, well, all this means is that America is invincible. But what people don't recognize is the level of corruption within the American military. The American military is probably the most corrupt institution in the world, by far. No one even comes close, okay? September 10th, 2001, Donald Rumsfeld.
Yet they lead you to believe that, oh no, your tax dollars are at work. Oh, Kia Trump is going to go eat food. So your security dollars are at work protecting her as she buys her peptides. Yo, you guys are fugazi in the States, bro.
Who's the Secretary of Defense for the Americans. He's head of the Pentagon. And this is a day before September 11th, the 9/11 attacks. He said that, he had a press conference and he said that, look, we looked at the Pentagon books, okay? We're trying to do an accounting of the Pentagon military spending and we can't find $2 trillion. There's $2 trillion missing from the budget. It went somewhere, we don't know where, but it went somewhere. So where does the money go? It goes to private contractors. These are all private companies that make a lot of money off the government. So listen at the Boeing company. They had in 1 year, $20 billion from the government. They got $20 billion in contracts from the government. To do so, they had to spend $16 million in order to lobby Congress through advertisements, through political campaigns. And then they bribed, this is a bribe to politicians, they spent $2 million. So this is a really good business to be in. You spend $2 million, you give them bribes to politicians, then you spend $16 million on campaign, and then you make $20 billion. This is extremely profitable.
That's a crazy return. That's a crazy return. We don't even need to do math on that, bro. Hey, spend 20 million and you'll make 20 billion? Bro, that's a no-brainer, dog.
The difference, of course, is being picked up by the American taxpayer. The Boeing company is not just a defense contractor, but also makes civilian airplanes. And for these past few years, there's been quite a few cases of civilian airplanes falling out of the sky made by Boeing. So for example, the Boeing 737 MAX, there was a recall because there were some engineering issues with the plane. Now, there have been a couple of whistleblowers who come out and try to say that Boeing is a very corrupt company. And for a reason, they died, okay? They just disappeared.
Yeah, of course. We don't need to get into why they're perishing. But I will say this, when it comes to technology, the people who have technology first before anybody is always the military, right? So the military gets it, uses it for how they want to use it, creates their new war weapons, and then once they deem it to be obsolete or something new is just on the horizon, then they shell it out to us. Cell phones, internet, anything of that sort, it all started with the military first. They wanted the use case of it, and they're using it. Even AI, as advanced as people think it is, just imagine the kind of stuff that the government has, the kind of stuff that the military has that they're using. And this whole idea of quantum computing, I'm sure they have it already. To be able to process so much data and control us even further. Hey, but I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just a fucking guy.
We don't know why, but when they were about to testify against Boeing, they somehow died. This is a really interesting story that shows you the level of corruption in the Pentagon. There is this woman who's a contractor for the Army, and she stole $103 million. That's a lot of money, $103 million. She stole it. The Army didn't know, and she kept on stealing. And no one seemed to care in the Army. But then the IRS, this is the Internal Revenue Service, they recognized that she was getting all this money from somewhere, so they investigated investigated her and recognized, oh my God, she's stealing from the army. So the IRS told the army, and that's when the army recognized, oh, we have a problem. The fact that the army didn't notice that she was stealing $103 million tells you, actually, theft in the military is probably a very common thing. Ultimately, what this means is that this corruption in...
Bro, they're playing with what is it now? $41 trillion in debt? And the army is spending billions upon billions of dollars. They've already dumped in like, what is it, like $3 to $4 billion in this war already. So it goes to show you that, yeah, there's so much money moving around in the military. They don't even notice when money goes missing, air quotes. It doesn't go missing, it goes in niggas' pockets, bro.
And the Pentagon is not really sustainable. So let me discuss why this is a problem for America in Iran. So right now, America is facing three major issues with this war in Iran. The first major issue is a lack of political will, meaning that this war is very unpopular in America. Only 40% of the population currently support this war, and as things go on and on, support will probably...
That's a lot.
Decrease. You need political will because you need Americans to pay for this war. Trump has asked for $200 billion to fund this war. And also it's possible that Trump will call the national draft, which I believe will happen. So if Americans don't want to support this war, it's very hard to get them to pay for this war and to go fight this war. Second problem is lack of manufacturing capacity. So in other words, what this means is that if you lose planes, if you use too many bombs, you cannot replenish it because you don't have the factories to produce these planes and bombs quickly enough. And
imagine working at a bomb factory, bro. What kind of hazard is that? Every day your life is in sheer danger. Does it even pay enough? It has to be more than $20 an hour, bro, because that's ridiculous. Every day, some idiot Fudu in the back could drop something. Oh, Allah, your life is gone, bro.
And so if this war drags on too long, then America will just run out of bombs. Third problem for America is unwillingness to sustain casualties. Okay? And what this means is that the American military is afraid of reporting deaths, casualties, which is weird because in a war, soldiers die. That's just the reality of war. But the Pentagon is afraid of reporting too many deaths because of the fear.
What is up with that nigga, bro? Did you see that? Tell me you guys caught that. Everyone is about to salute, and this guy says, I don't know. I don't know if I should. Check this out.
But the Pentagon is afraid of reporting too many deaths because of the fear of backlash. So these are...
And the lady beside him was like, put your hand on your heart. Put your hand on your heart. I know you don't care because you're embezzling billions of dollars from the military. But at least try to pretend. I'm telling you, bro, these niggas up there, they don't care about niggas down here.
Three major problems for the American military in Iran. These are the three major constraints. The Americans can't actually resolve these issues, and America will probably lose this war, in which case this gives opportunity for Israel to prove to the world that it should be the empire. And it proves it can be the empire by showing that it does have political will, it doesn't have the manufacturing capacity, but that's Mossad, and it is much more strategic. The last thing is that it is resilient, meaning that it is willing to accept casualties. So basically, the idea here is the global elite, they need an empire to provide the muscle, but the empire must prove that it can serve the needs of the global elite. So an empire must prove three things. First of all, it must prove unity, it must prove it has the resources and the capacity, and it must prove determination. So what Israel is doing really, is basically auditioning to the world, we are ready to replace America. We are ready to be the new empire. So let's look at what's happening. America has this MIC. And so the MIC, military industrial complex, what they're good at doing is producing very expensive weapon systems. But unfortunately, when you actually put these weapon systems into war, it doesn't really do anything, okay? So this is the Patriot missile system that's supposed to protect the GCC in Israel and the American military bases from Iranian drones and missiles. Guess what, guys? Doesn't really work, okay? In fact, as you can see from the video, the Iranians can basically fly drones anywhere in the Middle East, and the Americans can't really stop them. So this is billions of dollars.
All this money to build equipment that doesn't even work. Dude, how American is that? Someone explain that to me.
Doesn't really do anything. This is called the F-35. The F-35 is the most advanced fighter jet in the whole world. It has stealth technology, meaning you can't actually...
Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing? Come on, man. These niggas just dapped it up before they jumped in the F-35. Like, you have that, like, you would think we're at war. But no, you guys have time to dap it up real quick. Your little handshake. Watch.
Billions of dollars doesn't really do anything. This is called the F-35. The F-35 is the most advanced fighter jet in the whole world. It has stealth technology, meaning you can't actually lock onto it using radar. This cost $100 million each. It took 26 years to develop. So you would think, wow, it took 26 years, so this must be really, really good. No, it took 26 years because the MIC is really corrupt and they want to steal as much money as possible. And in this war, the Iranians have already shot down at least one of these jets. This is not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to be able to shoot these things down. The Iranians have shot it down using very low radar. Again, these things, they're not designed to win wars. They're designed to steal as much money as possible from the American taxpayer.
You know what? If Jiang knows this much, he's pretty much outing everybody, dude. So y'all niggas should get your house in order because there's a professor here, a high school professor, who's just demolishing the entire American society, guys. I don't know, hey. Maybe you guys want your information leaked. Maybe it's all a conspiracy. Shwa!
The last example is the Gerald Ford. This ship cost $13 billion. The annual defense budget for the Iranians is $10 billion. It goes into the war theater, and 3 weeks afterwards, it has to run away. And in fact, the Americans say, oh, the Gerald Ford, this is the most advanced supercarrier in the world. It's probably going to be down for repairs for the next 2 years. And there's argument as to what happened. Okay, there are three different possibilities. The first possibility is that there was an accident in the laundry room, and there's a fire, and this fire spread throughout the carrier, okay? Which means that
bro, you guys have all this money, all this resources and power, and it's a fire in the fucking laundry room that takes down this $13 billion ship. I think we all must reevaluate what is money and how does one get it in their surrounding area, because this is just bullshit.
Actually, the carrier is not very resilient. Okay, so that's one possibility, and that's what the official story is. There are also others who say like the Iranians hit the ship with a missile, and so the Gerald Ford can't protect itself from Iranian missiles, so it ran away. The third possibility, the third explanation is the Pentagon recognized that there are severe limitations of the Gerald Ford in actual combat operations. Its radar, its guidance system are all very limited. So the Pentagon withdrew the Gerald Ford because it was absolutely useless in war. Whichever story is true, it doesn't paint a good picture of American military. $13 billion, and this is nothing, okay? It's just a white elephant. And also, this is Iwo Jima, and this...
You know, you would think you would spend $13 billion and you would build it out of some sort of resistant material. You guys said, you know what? No, fuck that. Throw that out the window.
Came in World War II in the Pacific Theater when the Americans were fighting the Japanese. And this is the height of American military glory. It took about 6,000. The Americans lost 6,000 Marines in taking this island. And that's the sacrifice you need in order to win wars. You're going to lose a lot of soldiers. And Americans are proud that they were willing to make the sacrifice necessary to win the war. The problem is Americans are no longer willing to sustain casualties. So the Americans sent about 5,000, around 5,000 Marines to Iran, hoping that 5,000 Marines will be enough to win this war. But it just shows you the Americans have no strategy to win this war. They don't want to make the necessary sacrifices to win this war. They want to win this war as quickly and as cheaply as possible, okay? The Israelis are different, okay? This is Gaza. And we all know that what Gaza did was terrible. But again, if you are auditioning to be an empire, Gaza is proof of concept, okay? Meaning it's showing the global elite, look, we're willing to do what it takes to win this war and defend the empire. So this was a tremendous tragedy, and it's all war crimes, okay? And the entire world is aghast. But if you look at Israeli public opinion, 82% support expelling all Palestinians from Gaza. 66% believe Amalek exists today. Amalek is just like Israel has this great enemy that it must defeat. So 66% of Israelis believe that this war against Gaza is a war for the very existence of Israel. Okay? This is unity. This is determination. The Americans don't have this. Most Americans oppose what Israel is doing in Gaza. But Israelis themselves support what's going on. Okay, so there's unity. In 2024, there was the famous Lebanon pager attack, meaning that the Israelis were able to implant bombs into pagers that went to Hezbollah members. And then it blew up. And maybe from a military perspective, it didn't accomplish that much. From a psychological perspective, it accomplished a lot. It scared the living hell out of Hezbollah. It made them paranoid. And it also made the world respect Israel more. And Israel spent $275 million to conduct this operation. That took decades to implement. And you're like, okay, why is Israel telling us this? Because again, Israel is auditioning to be the new empire. It's telling the global elite, look, not only will we fight this war for you, not only will we be your muscle, but we'll do it cheaply, man. Not billions of dollars, millions of dollars. This is ISIS. ISIS is Islamic State. And this...
What a crazy message, bro. We will fight the war and we will be number one just like the Americans, but we will do it at a cheaper cost. What kind of messaging is that? Why does the control of nations have to even occur at all? Sure, we can break it down to the idea of biology, the idea of we haven't been able to escape our primary paradigm of being apes, and so we fight over control and resources and women and biology and the simple things of what it means to be simple mitochondria. Sure, we could say that. Is that still what's possibly true? I guess so. Maybe that's why the aliens won't let us into the Galactic Federation on Saturn, because we haven't learned to think outside of our primal needs. I don't know. I'm just a guy.
This is considered a terrorist organization. These Sunni extremists who go around and beheading people. Now, this is from the New York Times, and the yellow tells you areas in which they operate. And as you can see, it's really across the Middle East. And the red are incidents of attacks directed by ISIS. Now, something that's really funny about all this is ISIS attacks everywhere in the Middle East except for one country. That country is Israel. Okay? Really funny how you have these Muslim extremists going around committing all sorts of atrocities everywhere in the Middle East except Israel. And so that's why a lot of people believe that Islamic State is actually a creation of Mossad. But again, Israel is happy for
Look at these weapons, bro.
For the world to know this, because again,
Dear God, man.
Israel is auditioning to be the new empire. And what Israel is saying is, we don't have to use the American strategy of just bombing everyone to death. That's expensive, that's brutal, and it's not very strategic. We can use Mossad to infiltrate groups and use these groups against their comrades, their neighbors. Isn't that much more efficient? Isn't that much more effective? So what Israel is saying is, we are much better at controlling the Middle East than the Americans. So let us control the Middle East using our strategies. This is a story of a Mossad agent who was disguised as an ISIS preacher. And this happens a lot. There are lots of stories where you have these ISIS commanders or agents, and when you arrest them, you discover, okay, actually, they're actually Mossad. So ISIS is basically a Mossad operation.
Neither of these factions are making a point for why they should be ruling the world. That's the stupidest ideologies ever. And the fact that only 40% of people in America are against the war is still too high. That's almost a 50-50 split, 1 and 2. That doesn't, the 60-40, that's a terrible split. How can you get tricked by the propaganda and memes of the White House into going into war, dude? Operation Epic Fury, it's bullshit.
The main story here is, if you look at history, the relationship between Israel and America is actually pretty simple. Israel is the pit bull for America. The problem with an empire as it grows old is it doesn't want to do bad things. It wants to feel good about itself. Therefore, it subcontracts the violence, the murder, the genocide to different people, to mercenaries, the Israelis in the Middle East. And this is a pattern throughout human history, where Israel was created by the British and Americans to be their pit bull, to be their aircraft carrier in the Middle East, to create as much instability as possible so that the Americans and the British could control the oil supply in the Middle East. And this has gone on for decades, and now the Israelis are like, wait a minute here, we're the ones doing all the work, we're the ones making all the sacrifices, we're the ones that are getting all the hate in this world, so why shouldn't we be the empire now? America's useless, right? So this is a pattern throughout human history. And so we're going to look at what this means. So Israel is something called the Greater Israel Project. And this is what extremists in Israel believe. They believe that God in the Bible promised the entire Middle East to the Jewish people, okay? Extending from the Nile in Egypt all the way to the Euphrates in Iraq. And it also encompasses Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and parts of Turkey as well. Now, something really funny about this map is this. Iran, Persia, is not part of the Greater Israel Project. So then you're asking yourself, wait a minute here. If Iran is actually not part of the Greater Israel Project, then why is Israel going to war with Iran? Well, the reason why is, if they want all this territory, their main enemy is not Syria, that's been destroyed. It's not Iraq, that's been destroyed. It's not Saudi Arabia, it's too weak. Not Jordan, it's too weak. Not Egypt, it's too weak. Not Lebanon, it's too weak, okay? Their main enemy is the American empire. In the Greater Israel Project, it's the Americans that control the land of Greater Israel, the Middle East. These are American bases. So in other words, you use this war against Iran to destroy the American empire. How? By forcing the American empire to go and invade Iran.
Thus weakening the resources, thus going into over expenditures because of the war, thus separating its people and causing divide. And then this is how you completely destroy the American empire. Oh, well, you know what? That's not a bad tactic. When you really look at it, you're getting these two countries to fight amongst themselves, and then once all the chaos ensues and stops, they will come out victorious. They will give the final blow to the head to take down the enemy, whoever is left standing. That's, you know what? It's such a cartoonish style of going about doing something. It's so ridiculous. It just might work. I hope not. War is bad and stupid. That's my consensus.